Hello. In the previous 3 reviews I already talked about it, so now it's getting a review on its own. Night of the Living Dead. For those who are unfamiliar with this movie, it's George Romero's debut film as both writer and director. It was released over 40 years ago in 1968, totally independent and very low budget. Doesn't sound too special, but in my opinion it is, next to 1960's Psycho, one of the most influential or important horror movies ever made. And this is also why the movie was added to the National Film Registry. This is a list that was started in 1988, where every year 25 movies are added which are culturally, historically or aesthetically significant. So I would just like to keep this video a bit informative, just talk about the movie, especially for you. So why is it considered a classic? Is it because the movie has proven that you don't really need lots of money and famous actors to make a good movie? I mean, Night of the Living Dead earned about $30 million in the box office, and that while the movie was made on a budget of around $100,000. Or is it because the movie is single-handedly responsible for the way we see zombies nowadays? This is the founder of the modern zombie genre. Of course, it wasn't the first movie to show us zombies. It was probably White Zombie back in '32. But all the zombie movies that were made up till Night of the Living Dead, the zombies they used were as slaves by voodoo witch doctors or something similar. George Romero introduced the world to the flesh-eating zombies. And since the release of Night of the Living Dead, there have been made probably hundreds of movies with these kinds of zombies that George Romero invented. Well, that's pretty cool. And you know what I think is pretty cool? The title. I mean, I even use it several times in my lyrics.
Take that! Night of the Living Dead style als ik binnen rap. Mij zijn het verslinden band, check! Ik ben hier, ongebruikt mijn brein als ik mijn lyrics bedenk. Geïsoleerd in mijn huis als in Night of the Living Dead. Sterf ik, maakt het niet uit hoe narrow ik greep. Kom terug en breng de Night of the Living Dead in mijn eentje.
Night of the Living Dead. That's like the perfect title for a horror movie. Nowadays it may sound a bit cliché, but this is the original, the first with this kind of title. There you have the sequels, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead. But beside those there are numerous movies that copied the name in one way or another. Return of the Living Dead, City of the Living Dead, Hell of the Living Dead, Children of the Living Dead, Flight of the Living Dead, Hood of the Living Dead, Poultry-Guy's Night of the Chicken Dead. Oh, you get the point. Well, let us first take a look at what the movie exactly is about. We begin the movie with Johnny and Barbara, brother and sister, who visit the graveyard where their father is buried. Here they're being bothered by what seems to be a drunk guy, but eventually turns out to not be a drunk guy, but just dead. Johnny gets wounded and Barbara tries to flee with the car, but yeah, you know what they say about women and but well, eventually she arrives at some sort of farmhouse, and here she tries to seek shelter but soon runs into Ben, someone who is also aware that something is not quite right. Well, later on they discover 2 more couples in the basement, a younger one and an older one with a daughter. And yeah, the number of zombies keeps increasing and they basically just try to keep themselves safe. It's a simple but effective story where the horror isn't just about the zombies with their hunger for human flesh, but also the claustrophobic atmosphere in the house and the tension between the people that arises from that. After the release of the movie, it very soon received a controversial status, mostly because of 3 things. First of all, the leading role was portrayed by an Afro-American actor, something that was quite unheard of at that time in American cinema. Besides that, Night of the Living Dead brought the goriness in cinema to a whole new level. Of course, like I said in the first video, Herschell Gordon Lewis already introduced the splatter genre, but the cannibalistic zombies in combination with the black and white, almost documentary style of filmmaking again caused quite some controversy. And finally, the Romero zombie movies are now well known for their social commentary or criticism. This also started with Night of the Living Dead, which came out in the US during the Vietnam War. Since I'm not an American citizen, not alive in that time, I can't really explain you how he played this, but still, I can imagine sort of how, well, I just can't really explain it. Up until now, Night of the Living Dead has 4 sequels: Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, and Diary of the Dead. The first 3 parts can be seen as the original trilogy, and apparently is the only trilogy in film history that has been entirely remade. Night of the Living Dead has even been remade twice. This is how the official Dead series looks like. The Return of the Living Dead and its sequels are often also named as part of the series, because John Russo, who was besides George Romero important guy behind the Night of the Living Dead, he wrote the story for Return of the Living Dead. But beside this, there is no real connection with the original series. Well, finally a bit about the Return of the Living Dead series. There are 5 parts, but I guess we can ignore the final 2. And the first 3 all are very cool in my opinion. The first 2 are real horror comedies, with the second one being a lot less popular, but I still think it's great though. And the third one, it's kind of special. It has its very own approach to the zombie genre. Maybe I'll give this one a review on its own one day. So in conclusion, go watch this movie if you haven't seen it, boys and girls. Night of the effing Living Dead, bitches!